Jason, how are you?
I'm good.
Doing great. Good to see you. Get ready to go live. Let's call to order this joint meeting of the Joint Conceptual Workshop of Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the Franklin Planning Commission for April the 25th, 2024. We'll start with a roll call. Commissioner Franks.
Here.
Commissioner Harrison.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay's here. Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Mann.
Here.
Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
All present and accounted for. Can't say the same thing for the Board of Aldermen, but we're delighted, Mr. Potts, that Alderman Potts, that you're represented tonight. So,
We will be small but mighty in numbers here tonight.
okay, I don't see the mayor yet either, so. Okay, so we have one item on the agenda tonight, and we've got 30 minutes to discuss it. So let's, it's the additional discussion on a development plan proposing 21 townhouse units and 12 multiplex units with 3 modifications of standards requests for parking, fence height, and retaining wall height on 4.73 acres located at 405 5th Avenue North, otherwise referred to as the Bosquet Place, B-U-D. Bosquet, okay.
Hi, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing a very unique applicant tonight. The applicant is a joint venture of the Franklin Housing Authority, of Habitat for Humanity, Hard Bargain Neighborhood, and Community Housing Partnership. All 4 of these nonprofits came together and responded to an RFP that the city put out for the development of this property. We presented this master plan to you about 7 months ago. It's been so long, though, we felt it was important to bring this back and present it to you again tonight for additional input and comment. The development at the time when we presented last was known as The Hill. Since we have an approved name from Williamson County Emergency Services to name this Bousquet Place. After Brant Bousquet, in honor of him and all the work that he did and put in, hard work that he put in for the Hard Bargain neighborhood. So this property is located right off of Hillsborough Road. The Sonic is just to the south, and Mount Hope Cemetery and Toussaint Cemetery are the adjacent neighbors just to the north. This property was once used by the City of Franklin Water and Sewer Department as their offices, their department. They've since moved. This property does have a portion of historic zoning overlay on it. So as a result of that, when we have a proposal to the Planning Commission and ultimately the Board, Mayor, and Alderman, it does go to the Historic Zoning Commission first. So we have been before the Historic Zoning Commission. They have reviewed this master plan and have recommended to the Planning Commission. This historic buffer is applied along the Toussaint Cemetery. The historic buffer that's required is 75 foot in width and does require a mixture of evergreen and deciduous planting. So where the building used to be, that concrete pad, that will be removed and that will become landscape planting. In our proposal, we're proposing 21 3-bedroom townhomes and 12 multiplex townhomes. Multiplex is a 4-unit condominium building. In this master plan, we have 2 2-story townhomes that are back to each other to make up that 4-building condominium. So where you see front porches fronting onto the cul-de-sac loop with the park in the middle, those same front porches are on the back side. So it provides economy of scale for the nonprofits and predictability in construction. So those are also incorporated into our plan. When we brought this master plan to you the first time, we were anticipating an emergency connection through the historic cemetery, through Mount Hope Cemetery, as depicted here. We then met with the Historic Cemetery Board. We met with the fire department. We had fire trucks making the turning movement from Mount Hope Street onto this narrow drive to access the property. In order for them to make that turn, they were going to have to relocate 2 historic columns. And the cemetery board was not in favor of that. We were also going to have to take their 12-foot wide path and make it a 16-foot wide asphalt path, which they were also not in favor of. They wanted the smaller, narrower 12-foot path. So we spent about 6 months kind of working with them, coming up with alternatives, trying to find different ways to approach this site. And thank goodness Jimmy Wiseman looked back at some historic aerial imagery. I told him I was going to give him all the credit. And this is on the second 11 by 17 that you have in front of you. And I told you there was a typo. The orange line really doesn't go the full extent. This is a little bit easier to see on your 11 by 17 here. So when the Water and Sewer Department owned this property and operated this property, there was a paved asphalt path right here traversing through what is the 75-foot historic buffer, and it exited right out onto Hillsborough Road. It was a gated, controlled access for the Water and Sewer Department. So right here, you see the blue that we use to describe and show to you where the 100-year floodplain is. Right here where this arrow is coming out, that is not 100-year floodplain. That is a high point on Hillsborough Road, and it stays a high point all the way past the grocery store on up Hillsborough Road. So someone would be able to exit this site, not in the 100-year floodplain, go up to Del Rio Pike and turn left at Del Rio Pike, and be able to exit safely from this property in a 100-year storm event. And that has been the big issue. You'll notice that the 100-year floodplain goes up past Sonic and actually includes Sonic. The 100-year floodplain actually encumbers the Sonic restaurant. You may remember it being closed for a year or so while they were remodeling that. So during a 100-year event, someone would not be able to leave this property and come out onto Hillsborough Road at the main access. And so that's been the biggest concern. How are we going to safely get residents out? Now, fire is telling us that there's an unlikely situation that they would actually use an emergency egress path, but we've got to plan it and prepare it so that they can in the event that there is a fire simultaneous to a 100-year flood event. So this path is planned to be 12 feet wide, either concrete or asphalt. We'll connect from Hillsborough Road to the parking lot for the townhomes. We plan for this to also be a pedestrian path. We want people to be able to use it to walk to get to the grocery store, to walk to get to the restaurants, or to the emergent care that's just right down the street. So we're working with engineering and fire to determine, are bollards the best use there? Are an emergency gate with a pedestrian gate in it? All of these things are kind of on the table. We're discussing all of those now. We want to make sure that vehicles don't use it when they're not supposed to, but that pedestrians can use it whenever they want to. So a little bit of a unique situation there. There are 3 modification of standards that we are asking for. The first is a reduction in the number of parking spaces. We are required to have 99 parking spaces with a master plan of 33 units. We are providing a total of 82 parking spaces, so this is a bit of reduction. It's 2.48 parking spaces per 3-bedroom townhome instead of 3 parking spaces per 3-bedroom townhome. We are really trying to maximize the site, but not compromise the usability of the site and the campus. We're asking for a modification of standards to allow for a 6-foot black metal picket fence in the front yard. Right here, this is considered per zoning the front yard of these townhomes. This is also a drop-off of about 40 feet. And so we need a safety barrier there. We need a safety fence there in the front yard, and that's why we're requesting that modification of standards. The maximum height of a retaining wall in a residential district is 6 feet. There is an existing transfer wall right here that is about 12 to 14 feet in height. And that's where the trucks used to back up and then unload into other trucks and haul off. We don't plan to do anything with it. We're going to leave that wall just like it is. But because we're planning on leaving it and it's taller than 6 feet, we're asking for a modification of standards because it's an existing feature on the property. This is depiction of the fence. You can see here the front of the townhomes facing onto Hillsborough Road. This is the 6-foot fence style and character that we would like to have. And hopefully you kind of understand why we need this safety consideration in this location. I will point out on our master plan, we can flip back to it real quick. It's not very easy to see. We will have pedestrian connections from the higher area all the way down to the Sonic. So you will have a traversable sidewalk that will allow you to get down there. That fence is not meant as a private security fence for the campus. It's really just meant to keep people off of the cliff. 906 Studios is our architect. On the top picture there, we're looking at a townhome that has 2 one-story townhomes on the sides, and then 2 two-story townhomes in the middle. This allows us to have some ADA accessible homes within this development. Not everything is going to be 2 stories. This also allows us to have a lower profile architecture on Hillsborough Road. As you're driving up, you see the side of the cliff where that is, but what you're going to be seeing are the one-story elevations, the 2-story elevations beyond. So it provides a little bit more architectural interest too as you're driving down Franklin Road. In the middle then, that lower picture, those are 4 2-story townhomes. So those 4 buildings are all going to be 2-story side-by-side townhomes, front porches. These are images of the front and sides of the multiplex buildings. Again, these are the 2-story townhomes facing the street and then 2-story townhomes to the rear. This building right on the corner that you're seeing highlighted at the top, it actually has 2 one-story townhomes that are along this edge and then goes to a 2-story pop-up. So again, just providing a little bit more of an architectural variety there. This is an image at the top of a multiplex building that would be 2 units, 2 stories on the front, 2 units, 2 stories on the back. The lower picture then is a 5 townhome building, so 5 townhomes side by side, backing up to the Mount Hope Cemetery, but fronting on to the Loop Road. Joey, is that my last slide? No. Okay. So we do plan on hosting a neighborhood meeting the 1st of May, May the 6th. Great, do you have that date for the neighborhood meeting? Can you look it up for us so I can tell? That will be publicly noticed on the city's website. We'll be hosting that via Zoom and are on track to be in front of the Planning Commission on May the 23rd. Happy to answer any questions that
Is
you
it
may
May
have.
the 6th? Neighborhood meeting?
Let me look that up real quick.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
I'll see if I can confirm that. We have that.
It's
Do you have that,
I
Joey?
think you already said it, haven't you?
Okay. We'll confirm it. We'll send an email.
Is that Monday, right?
It's Monday the 6th. I thought that was when it is, but I could be wrong.
I think I've already got it.
Okay.
That's May 6th.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, Commissioner Orr.
Yeah. The retaining wall that you're wanting to leave, that there's a stormwater pond in front of that. So a couple questions. It wet pond or dry pond?
Right now, it's a concrete pad. And so we're going to excavate that out and it will be a dry pond.
Okay. The wall face that's going to remain, you have plans to fix that up? You're going to put a veneer on it, spray it, paint it? What happens to it?
We have not discussed that. I know that it's a poured-in-place concrete wall.
Right.
I don't know that we have any plans to add any veneer to it at this moment.
Okay.
And that's the existing.
It is existing.
The big
Yeah.
existing,
Because
that's-
part of your MOS is to allow a retaining wall. Some of your notes refer to tearing down a retaining wall and building it back 6 feet higher. That's on slide number 9.
Let me flip it.
see it.
The note at the bottom, below the picture says,
It's been a hot minute since we talked about this retaining wall.
yeah, refers to an existing wall will be torn down and rebuilt, wall height up to 6 feet.
It's the leader on the picture.
Yeah, I know that it's this wall. I know that it's this wall right here that we're asking for the taller height. I'm trying to remember back if we discovered some structural issues with that wall and needed to rebuild it. That must be the issue.
So it's,
We need to maintain that height of wall as far as material and rebuilding and reconstructing of the wall. If that's what we need to do, that's what we're going to do. So if it's reconstructed, it has to be built to the city requirements with the proper finishes on the front.
right, okay. I just wanted it left the way it looks now.
Not what it would look like now, not today.
I think I have a question just on the parking ratios. I know you're asking for a reduction, but I also know we've also seen a couple other kind of multifamily type things come in here where they've done studies and, that maybe, the requirements aren't, necessarily, it might be robust of what the requirements are. So I think my question is that, has that been looked at all of kind of the mix of families that they anticipate in here? Is that reduction going to be an issue for them of what they typically see using this sort of housing?
Sure, the nonprofits don't believe it is.
Okay.
The Franklin Housing Authority, as they have been imagining and redeveloping their properties, they have some like-kind analysis of other 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms that we can kind of use to support this modification of standards. So we'll include that information with this middle of the development plan.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Other
These
questions?
will be deed restricted? Or will there be some market?
Yeah, so
Market product and
the,
then some deed restricted?
the joint venture is working right now with city staff, preparing a development agreement. And that development agreement spells out how the land is transferred, who's paying for what, who's obligated for what. And in that development agreement, it specifically states that these are deed restricted. Now, not all of them are affordable homes. There's going to be a mixture of market rate
Right,
and
that's what I was
affordable so that we
thinking.
get a mixture, of an economic mix within the community.
It's hard for me to get a perspective of if I'm standing or driving on Hillsborough and looking at it. The single story, I don't think, the few that are 2 stories, like, how much are you gonna be able to see if you're on the east side of Hillsborough Road, so the far side? Is that gonna be really high?
These are set back off of the right-of-way, but when you're down 40 feet below on Hillsborough Road, you may see halfway up the 2nd floor and then the gable.
Okay.
For those 2 stories? Okay. That's not bad.
Yeah, I just want to say this is very impressive. I'm glad to see we're finally seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. This project's been a long road. It's definitely a step for affordable housing in Franklin. So I wish you well.
Absolutely.
Another question about the emergency access. You've referred to it as a path. It's a 12-foot wide. Is it structured in a way that's sufficient to allow the cars, the vehicles to exit the site in the event of a high water situation? But
It will
also,
be. It's either going to be concrete or asphalt.
yeah,
It'll look like the Greenway Trail that runs alongside the river. We're going to have to put up some kind of bollards or restrictions to keep cars from driving on it because we don't want vehicles to suddenly just start using that as their path to get out to Hillsborough Road. But when it exits out onto Hillsborough Road, you can see a little bit of floodplain here. This is a little bit of backwater because of a pipe that crosses underneath Hillsborough Road. You can see the floodplain comes to an end right here.
Right.
And so from this space all the way back up to Del Rio Pike, you're out of the floodplain.
Yeah, and interestingly, the existing effective panel for this shows that other reach of floodplain going up the Del Rio, but the preliminary panel shows the 100-year floodplain stops about where that map shows it, kind of south of where that exit comes out, but it continues on as 500-year, what we call shaded zone X.
Gotcha.
So it's a little bit of a different handling, and Jimmy, I know the preliminary maps are dated 2020, and I know there've been issues, going on now for years about FEMA and their approval of the maps. And do we have any sense of what their real issues remain to be about that?
Shannon knows the dates way better than I do.
The last update I got, they were shooting for an effective date of June, sometime in June, but I have not heard official.
June of this year. So have you already gotten a letter of final determination?
No.
Your LFD?
Not
So
yet.
they won't happen in June then? Because I've got 18 new panels in Nashville that will take effect on June the 20th.
Well, they were saying that they expect to send that letter,
Yeah.
of final determination in June.
Because we got our letter in December, so
So-
there's, when the letter comes out, you got a 180-day
Right.
period and the Board of Aldermen has to adopt those maps,
Right.
and there's a bunch of stuff that happens in 180 days, but, so finally, man, it's
Fingers
been,
crossed.
it's been almost an unexplainable lengthy, so and are all the panels then subject to revision?
That, not every panel
Yeah.
within the city is getting revised,
Okay.
no.
Okay. All right, well, congratulations, I hope. So, but anyway, there looks like there's a little bit of change in the floodplain there, but it bears consideration for, it's only been a couple of years, I think it was 2021 when Sharps Branch backed up, and, again, you could stand in the parking lot at the Bank of America and it was water all the way past the Sonic again, and so that's more than once that we've seen that condition in modern times. But it's obviously you can't depend on getting out past the Sonic when the water's that high. So sounds good. And Alderman Potts.
I'll represent them all. How about that? You can call all the names.
The alderman.
Yes. Number one, Mr. Gamble, thank you for bringing this to us. Want to thank everybody that's been involved in the project up until now. I know there's a number of members of the Housing Commission that are in the audience out here that can't be seen on camera. Some that are sitting up front and that can't be here, but we want to thank everybody that's been involved. I've got a couple of questions and positive comments here. I appreciate the lower architectural roof lines that are going to be along Hillsborough. I was thinking the same thing, similar comment that was made about the height. I did have something on slide 10. It was involving the fencing along Hillsborough, and I just wanted to recommend maybe a heavier gauge aluminum fencing. I myself have had to do some fencing projects using something that was similar, and it's pretty easy to flex those posts.
Okay.
And just because we know it's going to be there for a while, and the last thing we want is some bent fencing that's along Hillsborough right there. And then also appreciate the forward thinking about the ADA accessible house and think about wheelchairs in these homes and being able to get up and down the hallways as well as in the kitchens. Yeah, those were the big things that I have right here. And also, you had mentioned in a previous meeting about the board from the cemetery and the pillars that were going to remain in place. And I don't know if everybody from the Planning Commission heard that or not, but you might want to touch on that as well.
Sure. Again, this was our first plan for emergency access that would get us a second means of egress without being encumbered by the 100-year floodplain. At this location right here at the entrance of Mount Hope Cemetery, there is a metal fence, and there are these two stone columns. I'm not sure how old they are. They probably go back to the early 1900s. They are separated by about 14, 15 feet. So for the fire truck to actually move in there, we would have to move those out to about 24 feet in order for the fire truck to make that turn. So having this alternative that Jimmy found for us, we're able to avoid this as the second means of egress. And so the cemetery board is much happier having this other option.
Good.
Well, thank y'all so much for your time and appreciate your
Thank you.
comments and questions. Anything-
Joey, did y'all have anything else, staff? I apologize for skipping over you at the beginning.
That's okay. Not a whole lot more to add, just due to the site constraints, topography, and the kind of drop-off of the sites, we are in support of the modification of standards. So that's all.
Great. All right. Well, great. Anything else? Then we are set to adjourn, I think. So we will be adjourned.